I'm saying it now. Here's hot take number 2. Elizabeth and Will are the main characters of Pirates of the Caribbean. And I know you can say it's Jack Sparrow, but as I said earlier, he is the third character that perpetually moves the plot forward. I don't think there is a single one of these movies that starts or the plot moves without Jack Sparrow being involved.
That is so true. That is so true.
Hello, and welcome to the Nerdiest Podcast, episode 82, the show where nerds talk about nerdy things. I'm your host, Mr. Nick Barrett, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, my ride or die, Mr. Jackson Glass, and I want to know how his week has been. But before I do that, I'm going to take less than 30 seconds of your time to plug our social media. You can follow us on Instagram at The Nerdiest Podcast. You can follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and any other major listening platform at The Nerdiest Podcast. And you can check us out on YouTube at The Nerdiest Podcast. Our Frozen episode actually blew up over there, which I'm sure we'll talk about here in a minute. But yeah, that's our social plug out of the way. Now, Jackson, how are you doing today, sir?
You know, I'm doing good because today is the first day of Thanksgiving break. And so I get to go home for like a week. And I'm really excited about that. I'm kind of frustrated because it took us a long time to set up today because we're like working on the new setup and I finally got some good upgrades and it just took a long time to get working. So I was frustrated on that, but it's been a good week. I got to play a show yesterday. Me and my roommate Gavin played a 3-hour set at like a local square of shops, and there were gonna be other people there, but they either dropped out or got COVID. So he said, hey,
how nice.
Do you guys just want to play the whole thing? And we said, okay. So we put together, essentially pulled a 3-hour set out of our butts, and it went really well. It was super cozy, and it was just like we went to IHOP after. I made $25. Like, come on.
Did you spend all 25 of those dollars at IHOP?
I spent about 10. So what's funny?
So you still.
So they had at IHOP, they have like a weekday special where you can get like 2 pancakes. I don't go to IHOP, so if this is not new information, I'm sorry. But there's like 2 pancakes and hash browns and eggs and bacon or sausage for like $6, which is incredible. And what's really funny is I got a coffee too, and it made it like $10. So I was like, oh yeah, this $6 meal became $10 because apparently coffee at IHOP is like $3.50.
The coffee costs you almost as much as the actual food.
Yeah, literally. And I'm like, bro, it's not even good coffee. $3.50.
It's not like it's Starbucks.
$3.50 like is not what you'd pay for a latte these days, but it's still like a drip coffee should be like $2. I don't know if I get to live in like a fantasy world where drip is $2 or like. See, if I go to the coffee shop here, it'd be like maybe $3 for just a black coffee, but that's good black coffee. This is diner IHOP black coffee for $3.50 in like the smallest mug I've ever seen. This is bad black coffee. Okay, $3.50 in this economy. What is
in today's economy?
What does this nation come to? Okay?
I could get a gallon of gas or a cup of coffee. What do I choose?
You can get a gallon of wow. My car takes premium gas.
Well, yeah, that is closer to $3.50. I pay like $3.15 a gallon, which, by the way, is way too expensive for gas.
That is so based.
I remember when I first got my car, gas was like $1, maybe $1.15 on a bad day. And I could like fill up my whole tank for $15, and now it's like, oh gosh, gotta go fill up my tank. I I was waiting to fill up my tank till I got paid.
No, okay, so
because I was like, ugh, and I only get paid once a month.
If you've been listening for a while, you know that I really love the movie Nope that came out this year, and I've been trying to find it on Blu-ray forever, and Logan, a guest of the show, found it at Walmart, and he said, oh, I found it, do you want me to buy it and you can pay me back? I said yes. So I owed him like $23 for like 2 weeks because I never have cash and he doesn't have Venmo, this and that, and so I'm like trying to find this cash somewhere, and he was like, hey, I really need gas money. If I could have that $23, like,
if you can just do 23 in my tank, that'd be great.
I'm so sorry, and it was bad. I'll get to your week. Well, no, I'll ask. I have one more thing to say, but I'll ask about your week. How was your week? I'm seeing some Christmas lights and stuff. That looks like a fun time.
Okay, so, it's been a good. Ooh, look at that Christmas.
I'm eating a Christmas tree cake. You know,
we're really just no Thanksgiving. Fall is over. That's why the lights are flashing and celebrating. Fall is over, party. They will not stay like this, by the way. I swear. For all of our poor video listeners who are like, this is a little overstimulating. Here, I'll change it. I'll change it back while I'm talking to one solid color. There you go. It's one solid color now. So. My week has been pretty okay. It started off good, and then it just kind of is, I guess. I went to the Cheesecake Factory on Monday, which was nice, because I got cheesecake, so that's pretty dope.
That's like white people heaven.
It really is. we went in a Monday afternoon at like 1:00, so there was nobody there. But I do have I just thought of this. I do have a really funny IHOP story. I've gone to IHOP once, and I got a burger. I didn't even get any breakfast food. Because we had just gotten out of class, and it was like 9:30 at night, and we were all like, you know what? Let's all go out to eat. So we went to IHOP, and it was like 9:30. They were about to close, and I was like, I really just want a burger. I don't really want any like sugary breakfast food. I just want something that I know is going to be good. It wasn't that great, but it's a little overpriced. Yeah.
It's like back when they were IHOB, and they were like, it was just a publicity stunt too.
Yeah, which was kind of cringe, honestly. Kind of cringe.
Mega cringe. The opposite of based.
But yeah, other than that, I've been playing a lot of Fortnite this week. I almost cried last night playing Persona 5. Not because the game was sad, but because like their equivalent of dungeons is they're called palaces. And I had like spent an hour going through this palace and figuring out all the puzzles, and I was getting close to like maybe the halfway point or like 3/4 of the way in. And I was like, you know what? Let me go fight this giant boss, 'cause it'll be easy, right? And then I died. But Persona does this fun little thing where when you die, it sends you back to your last save point.
Oh,
and I was very rudely reminded that I had not saved in an hour and a half. So I had to do everything over again. It was like the only thing that carries over is money and XP. Everything else, no. You got to do it all over again. All those personas you caught, got to do it over again.
That is so
all the puzzles
tragic.
You solved, got to do it again. So I sped run through and it took me like 20 minutes, but I was so like devastated. I was like, oh my god.
That is so sad. I'm so sorry.
So, I don't know if I mentioned it last episode, but I started doing this thing where I let Siri pick what shows I'm going to watch. Like I have a list on Serialized that is 12 shows, and then I have Siri pick a number between 1 and 12, and whichever one she says to watch, I end up watching. So right now I'm watching through a romance anime called Wotakoi, Love is Hard for an Otaku. It's on Amazon Prime. It's only subbed, which is why it's taking me so long to watch it, but it's pretty good. I'm enjoying it so far. And just for context, let me see what's in there right now. I know Only Murders Season 2 is in there.
It's so good.
Along with The Terminal List, which is that Chris Pratt show on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, I saw like pretty good things about that.
There are a lot of there's a lot of anime in here. Like of the 12 shows in here, 8 of them are anime.
Oh.
So
that's just your taste,
it's
though.
Pretty heavily skewed, but I'm trying to throw in more. Like I put Atlanta in here because I want to watch Atlanta.
I want to watch that too. I really do. I love Donald Glover.
So once I finish, and I'm only doing one at a time. I'm not going to have Siri pick like 3 and then watch all 3 of them at once. I'm really trying to like tone back and focus on one show. So
that makes sense.
Which I need to catch up on Andor. I'm so far behind.
Okay, I've seen 1 episode.
I'm on episode 3. That was the last one I watched.
How many episodes are there?
12. And by the time this episode comes out, the 12th one will have just come out.
That's not bad.
Last Wednesday.
That's not bad. The thing is, I have no time to watch TV. Like,
now you do.
TV, like I might try to catch up over break. TV is not something I have time for. But I have been watching a lot of movies, and I think movies are a more group experience because it's just like, oh, let's watch Mamma Mia. And then it's like, oh, sorry, I can't watch Mamma Mia. That's fine. Just don't watch Mamma Mia. If you're trying to watch a show all together, it's like, oh, we can't watch it because Jason's not here and he's going to miss something and this and that.
Yeah.
So I think, like, as someone that is currently in a season of life where I really only watch TV and shows socially or for the podcast, the social aspect is coming up a lot more in movies than shows. Which, speaking of that, we took a huge group to go see Black Panther Wakanda Forever this week.
Oh, here we go.
And so there was like a ton of stuff going on. It was a Tuesday night, $5 movie day, because you think I'm paying like $12 to see that? Hell no. So
apparently Regal doesn't do $5 movies. I looked because I wanted to go see it and I canceled my movie pass. I checked every single showtime on Tuesday. It ranged between $12 and $17, and I'm like, guys, I'll just wait till it's on Disney Plus. I'm not in a hurry.
The movie theater economy right now is so screwed up. Like $17 for a movie ticket is insane. That's why I only go on Tuesdays, because it's $5 movie day. And so it was super late. It was their last showing of the day. It was at 10 p.m. because everyone was super busy Tuesday. But we're like, hey, if it's at 10 p.m., no one will be there. It'll be $5 and we can just all go and it'll be great. We brought 13 people to see this movie. Okay, we took up an entire row and it was really funny. Like, I literally started on the other end of the row and like shook everyone's hand and said, hi, everyone, before I went to the other side where my seat was. And so that's how many people were here. And what I'll say about Black Panther Wakanda Forever is the parts I was awake for were pretty good. And it may have been because it was at 10 p.m., but that was a contributing factor. But it's 3 hours long. And I'm not going to spoil anything, but it's a tribute film. It really is. And it's really well done. Like, it's a huge tribute to Black Panther and Chadwick Boseman, it's beautifully done. But about an hour and a half in, you check your watch and say, this is still a tribute film. And so, while they do a great job of paying tribute to him and that character, that's its sole identity, is this 3-hour tribute, which is great. But I think the first half should be tribute, that's great, and then the second half should be story, like where are we going from here? But I feel like after watching it, I didn't feel like it went anywhere until the very, very end. Like, the end credit scene started to go somewhere. And it was just kind of cringe to watch.
When we get off the episode, can you just tell me what the post-credit scene is?
No, I absolutely can.
I've seen a lot of people talking about it, and I'm like, do I want to go sit through the movie just to see the post-credit scene? Not
I'll tell you
really.
what, I'll tell you. But yeah, that's kind of...
You know what's Marvel that'll be out by the time this episode comes out that I can actually look forward to? The Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special. I'm
be so
actually
good.
genuinely looking
so
forward
good.
to that. Maybe my new favorite Christmas movie?
Who's to say? Who's to say?
I don't know.
Anyway, the reason that we're here is to talk
Is
about
also because of a Disney movie.
Pirates of the Caribbean. And this episode was supposed to come out like 2
months
episodes
ago.
and unforeseen circumstances happened. And I'm just going to say,
got really long.
These are all pretty long movies. They're like 2.5 hours long, and there's 5 of them. And people kept getting sick, and it was like, I can't watch it right now. So
I can't.
Hey, here we are. We made it. So here we are. Pirates of the Caribbean, if you don't know, then why are you here? But I'm glad you're here anyway. Johnny Depp, Elizabeth. No, not Elizabeth. Elizabeth. I was gonna say Elizabeth Swan.
That's her character
Johnny Depp,
name. It's
Keira
Knightley.
Orlando Bloom.
Keira Knightley, also known as Natalie Portman's sister.
Portman's twin.
Shocker.
So, I mean, we can go movie by movie if you want, or we can just...
I also want to point out, which we can go movie by movie, but I kind of want to get general thoughts out of the way first. I should also mention, this episode is most likely going to be full of hot takes. Most of them probably from me, but that's
so true.
Pretty on brand for us. So if you can't handle hot takes about Pirates of the Caribbean, then, I don't think you should be here.
Go find another
full
podcast.
Of hot takes. Go listen to one of our other various episodes. This one may not be for you. I should also note, this is based on a ride. I think this is the first time. No, this would have been like the second or third time Disney tried to do a movie series about rides, because I know they did the Haunted Mansion movie in 2003, which I do want to watch for the podcast at some point.
Does that count?
Yeah, because it's named the Haunted Mansion. It's based on the ride.
I mean, I guess.
And there's also, I have it back there on my shelf. I haven't watched it yet, but there is I don't even know what year it's from, but it's a Tower of Terror movie. Like, it is literally the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror. And that is the movie.
It's not the Twilight Zone show.
No.
Interesting.
It's just this dad and his daughter go into this creepy hotel on the dark side of Hollywood.
Ooh, we should watch it.
So,
I mean,
we could.
I mean,
anyway. I got it right here.
Anyway,
moving on.
Hold up. Wait a minute.
So yeah, this was their first, or like a attempt at making movies based on rides, and I think based on the fact that there are 5 of these movies, it did okay, at least financially. And they are really trying to get a Pirates of the Caribbean 6.
Oh, they're pushing
in the
hard.
water. Like, they're trying to get that ship sailing, and it's not going very well, because then they fired Johnny Depp when all the stuff with Amber Heard came out. And now that, like, that trial's over and Johnny Depp won, everyone's like, oh my gosh, we need Johnny Depp back. Which, by the way, Disney, you don't deserve Johnny Depp, because you dumped him on the street without doing any research as to whether or not any of it was true.
Shame.
But now you're trying to pretend like it didn't happen, like you're trying to sweep it under the rug. No, you don't deserve Johnny Depp. He deserves better. But he also has to make a living, so who knows?
Who's to say? I do a lot of things for money.
First hot take, I would argue that the Pirates movies were never about Johnny Depp to begin with.
Ooh.
They, like, Jack Sparrow, to me, as, like, after having seen all 5 movies, Jack Sparrow feels a lot more like the comedic side character. Not to say he is a side character, he's more of like a third wheel that keeps the plot perpetually in motion.
And not to say he's a bad character at all.
Right. He's not a bad character. It's just he's not the main character, despite the fact that, when you say Pirates of the Caribbean, you think Johnny Depp, Jack Sparrow. He's always in the middle, like front middle on every poster. Like, that's just the consensus, but I would argue he's not the main character, but we'll get there. So,
yeah.
What are your general thoughts?
I think generally, well, First of all, this is the first time I've actually sat down and watched through all of these. I've seen them in passing. Like I think I watched them all in the car once when I was like 14. I don't think that counts. Like I don't remember anything. But I think generally speaking, blanket statement, I was very impressed by these movies. Some more than others. I think the first 3 will be forever iconic. I think the last 2 are fan fiction with a high production budget. So the first one, okay, The Curse of the Black Pearl will never not be one of the, dare I say, one of the best movies ever made. Can I say that?
It's such a good movie.
I feel like it's just one of those stories that just everything came together. Like we don't get stories and like movies like this anymore because like I don't remember the most recent movie that had like everything so perfect. Like the directing was perfect, the casting was perfect, like the soundtrack was perfect, like the editing is perfect, like the story is perfect, and like the visual effects for its time, 2003, they're amazing.
Dare I say, and I know we said this about Lord of the Rings, dare I say, at least the first 3 movies have better CGI than Marvel's got right now.
I mean,
and they came out 2003, 2006, 2007 respectively.
Yeah.
Like how? And I know we'll get to it, but like Davy Jones looked so good. He
looked amazing. That was
in 2006.
That was one of the only notes I actually wrote down was, holy cow, Davy Jones looks amazing. Like, I don't even know how they did it. And I think it's just kind of like, I don't want to say we're taking for granted visual effects, but they only use
taking them for granted.
The visual effects in this movie aren't a cop-out. They're to add to the story. And
because we also don't have giant men with squid tentacles, beard, and
like if Davy Jones
walking around.
Like if Davy Jones was just a dude, he wouldn't be scary. But like they like really efficiently used their visual effects, and everyone, like the costumes in this movie are incredibly well done. Production design is just on point. And like they were shot on location, all those ships are real, and so it's kind of like it's just like it came together. It really just is one of those like near perfect movies. The first one is, and you just get this young Orlando Bloom that like will never have that again. And it's
fresh off of Lord of the Rings.
Fresh off of Lord of the Rings. Welcome back to the Orlando Bloom cast, where we only revisit Orlando Bloom franchises. But like, I have no beef with the first movie. That's incredible. And then the second 2 are also amazing. I think Dead Man's Chest did some incredible stuff with the character of Elizabeth Swann. I really like that.
And then they brought it all together in At World's End.
Okay,
by making her like the pirate king.
Here's
or whatever.
Here's the thing. This is why it's so good. So Dead Man's Chest and At World's End was gonna be one movie, and then as the story fleshed out, they said, "Oh, we need 2. Like this is like this." So that's like you could watch them back to back. Like
which I kind of did.
Yeah, no, same. They just kind of like flow right into each other. And so there's like, which like really puts into perspective how the last 2 are, like On Stranger Tides and Dead Men Tell No Tales are completely separate. Like there's no continuation except for characters, if that.
If anything, it feels more like Dead Men Tell No Tales, which by the way, I honestly kind of hate that it's named that, because that's like the slogan from the ride. And I know that's not like a new thing they developed for the ride. There are a lot of things in these movies that are just based on, oh, these are actual pirate, like Hoist the Colors, the song that they kept singing in At World's End, is an actual sea shanty. Like, that's not something they made up for the movie, and I'm sure Dead Men Tell No Tales is the same way. But with that movie coming out in 2017, at the height of, oh, everyone loves this ride at Disney, we just added Johnny Depp to it, like all this stuff, it felt more like we want to get the ride audience into, and that's kind of where it lost. But in that regard, at least it continued the story of Will and Elizabeth, who, by the way, I'm saying it now, here's hot take number 2. Elizabeth and Will are the main characters of Pirates of the Caribbean. And I know you can say it's Jack Sparrow, but as I said earlier, he is the third character that perpetually moves the plot forward. I don't think there is a single one of these movies that starts or the plot moves without Jack Sparrow being involved.
That is so true. That is so true.
Because even in Dead Man's Chest, where Elizabeth and Will are arrested, it's because they helped Jack Sparrow. Which then, you can say, well, if that's the case, then he is the main character. And I'm like, no, because we start out all 3 of these movies on Will and Elizabeth, one or the other, or both. So, like, I don't know. And honestly, I cared more about them than I did Jack Sparrow. Like, Jack is cool, and he's a pirate, will forever be an iconic soundtrack. But, like, I really cared about them, and I could get invested in their
There's a difference between main character and central focus, if that makes sense. So, like, Jack Sparrow is the center of this universe that everything revolves around, but that doesn't make him, like, the main character, if that makes sense. Because they're not pushing you to care about Jack Sparrow, because he kind of sucks. Like, he's kind of the worst, but also it's his charm that, like, makes you love him. And you, like, kind of want to root for him, but you, like, kind of shouldn't, but he's cool. And so it's, like, this back and forth of, like, is he... Because you don't have to be a protagonist to be the main character, but also I wouldn't consider him a protagonist. So
he's there's a specific word for the type of protagonist he is.
I know what you're talking about.
I just don't know what it is. I'm gonna Google it. If you
try to Google that. And then I have beef with Dead Men Tell No Tales because it feels like a reboot. Because this is 2017. This is 14 years after the original, the first movie came out. And so all I could think of, I was watching this with Amy, I leaned over to her, I said, Jack Sparrow feels so different in this movie. And what she pointed out is she said, he's old. Jack Sparrow gets older. And in Dead Men Tell No Tales, he's just not as exciting. And he's just like, and that's, I think... And that is an important character move, I think, but it also makes for a less entertaining film, I feel, because that's what made, like you said, he perpetuates the plot. He's always like boom, boom, bam, always doing something crazy. And so as he gets older and he's like, I kind of went out of this, I'm just going to drink my pain away and I'm going to give away this compass because I'm an idiot and stuff like that. It's just kind of like, I felt like his charm kind of wore off on me in Dead Men Tell No Tales because it felt like he was too, I don't want to say too old to be there, but I felt like he had run his course and he didn't want to be there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think that, yeah, it really felt like Johnny Depp was phoning it in for the 5th one. And I remember hearing a lot of stories about how he was late to set or he was not showing up in the best attire or he would just not show up at all, which to me says, well, maybe he didn't want to do that movie, but he was contractually, like maybe he had contractually signed for 5 movies. And that's why we ended up getting 5 movies.
I also don't know what the timeline looks like for him and Amber Heard. And like if there was just more stuff going on behind the scenes that we didn't see. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt on that one. But I felt like that reflected in the movie.
Yeah. The closest tagonist I could find
Mm-hmm.
for Jack Sparrow would be the I don't know how to pronounce this. Deuteragonist, the Deuteragonist, which is a character who's not exactly in the spotlight but pretty close to it.
Mm-hmm.
And they're usually the sidekick in the company of the protagonist, giving advice, plotting against their rivals, and generally lending a helping hand. That's arguably the most. That is the best thing for Jack Sparrow, if not protagonist.
Which, I think Jack Sparrow is just the character that the camera follows, if that makes sense. Because
they have to, because he's the funny guy.
Yeah, no, and it makes it's not a bad thing. It's really not. I freaking love Jack Sparrow as a character. He's awesome. He's iconic. Right. And that's all Johnny Depp, baby. That's him. He is Jack Sparrow. That is
Johnny Depp being Johnny Depp.
And so I think there's just this huge world where all this cool stuff is happening and you just get to follow this crazy guy going through it, which low key, it's awesome. These are great movies. I really enjoyed watching all of these. And I want to say, I think it's Dead Man's Chest specifically that the cinematography was on point.
Yes.
These are gorgeous movies. They really are. I don't think they're appreciated enough. I'm also going to look at release dates, and I'm going to say the first one was 2003, and then 2 and 3 were released in 2006 and 2007. They were back to back because they were
just like Lord of the Rings.
They were contiguous. And then 4 years later, in 2011, we get On Stranger Tides.
And then 5 years, or what, 6 years later, we get Dead Men Tell No Tales, 2017.
Which I feel like
such a long time.
I feel like they maybe should have kept it at 3.
They should have, because those 3 movies are very connected. And what I realized makes the other 2 feel so different is Gore Verbinski did not direct them. And I'm pretty sure they didn't even have the same writers. I might be wrong on that. Letterboxd might not have the right cast and crew list.
Hans Zimmer didn't even do the soundtrack.
What? Oh.
It's like that's what I'm saying.
So
the last
sad.
2 feel like Pirates fan fiction with a high production budget.
Yeah. Especially when you get I want to keep talking good things before I talk about how bad the last 2 are.
Yeah.
Something that I really loved and I don't see enough, and it's 2 things. One, they did a lot, and I mean a lot, of practical work.
Oh my
with
gosh,
these movies. You can tell that the water is real, the sets falling and all that stuff. And yeah, maybe there's some CGI in there for when the ship is flipping, throughout the water. Yeah, right. Sure. But it looked realistic.
It looked great.
I just really enjoyed how practical everything was, and even how good the CGI looked for Davy Jones, or in the first movie when they would, turn into skeletons when they walked into the sunlight or the moonlight. That kind of stuff it looked really good, and it really helped me feel like I was there, and not so much, especially in Dead Man Tell No Tales. You can tell the difference between, okay, we've gone from rough CGI or good looking CGI but mainly practical to, oh my gosh, this ship can its top can go down and then crash down on other ships, and there's zombie sharks and these dudes who can run on top of the water and all this stuff. And I'm you
just calm down.
Fell so far, such a fall from grace.
It was because even the trilogy, they're, for what they are, they're pretty realistic and they're pretty grounded. Right. There are rules to the Pirates of the Caribbean world. They're more like guidelines, but they're there. And so it's just kind of I feel like the last 2 started to really reach into this weird religious mythology type. I think they leaned a little too far into the weirder side of pirate lore. and I just wasn't a fan of that. There was like the super Christian like missionary dude that was like, I saw her ankles. Like that is
no.
That was so cringy.
I saw her ankles was in 5. That was Elizabeth and Will's son.
Oh,
right. When she was like taking off her stuff, which I'm gonna come back to her. I feel so bad.
Oh yeah.
For her, but I'll get there. And it's funny that you say you don't like that they leaned into the pirate mythology and stuff. I would argue, for me, that's what made the first 3 movies so good. Is because we don't see world building like this in other movies. And I'll lean more towards like other Disney or like Warner Bros. Movie, because I know there are a lot of indie movies that have the potential and maybe have done that I just haven't seen. But like just the way that this didn't, because if you look at something like Star Wars, the lore is all there. It's just whether or not we've actually adapted it as a show or a movie or a comic or whatever. Same thing for Marvel.
You just need to engage it.
Right. Like all the lore and stuff for the Marvel movies is there. It's already been written. They're not really doing anything new. I mean, they are kind of in how they connect it, but they're using characters that have already really like been pre-established. So, and then you look at movies like this, where prior to this movie, Jack Sparrow did not exist. Elizabeth Swann did not exist. Will Turner did not exist. Barbossa did not exist. Like, all these characters did not exist. Now, on Stranger Tides, obviously Blackbeard exists because everyone knows Blackbeard. That's like the famous, like that's the real life famous pirate. So I don't know how I feel about that, but in the first 3, it was just, there was all this world building there and it felt so natural and the pirates felt actually scary.
Yeah.
Like when they show up in Curse of the Black Pearl and just like completely waste the town, take Elizabeth and then leave.
Terrifying.
That's what pirates did.
Bro,
that is what genuine pirates did. These movies did such a good job of showing you that no, pirates are not these cool, like, oh, we ride on ships and we use swords and like, no, they are genuinely not great people.
They just go and like, they just blew up the town. Like they're
and then they left.
terrorists.
And they're like, bye.
Like they're awful.
Which
and
that's to say not that the British are any better. And like the first 3 did a great job of characterizing that yes, pirates aren't great, but the British aren't any better.
Yeah.
Because they're like out here, like in the 5th movie, they're just gonna kill that girl because she's a scientist. She's a witch. How dare she? It's just like in Beauty and the Beast. We're gonna shun Belle because she knows how to read books. Women can't read.
Women can't read.
That's not allowed.
Not the women.
So it's stuff like that. And I feel like today we have this really warped sense of what pirates are. Like, in the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, they changed a few things because they're like, oh, well, you know, it's not really culturally acceptable anymore to do that. And I'm like, okay, but
nothing
I'm
about
not saying,
this is okay.
Listen, there's nothing okay about auctioning off women. That was never okay. But I'm not gonna pretend they didn't do it. Ride, but to actively change your ride and cut that part out is so disingenuous because now people have a very like, oh, pirates are cool. They run around with swords and eye patches and stuff. And we need to not forget that pirates are bad people who run around stealing, killing people, and auctioning off women. All 3 things that are not okay.
Which even having that in the ride doesn't condone it.
Right, because it's presented as a bad thing.
Like, pirates are bad people, and they do bad things. That doesn't mean, hey, go do this. I'm not going to watch Pirates of the Caribbean and say, maybe I should raid a British town. No.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go sail the 7 seas and pillage. It's just kind of like, you're right. It's kind of like this, pirates are so cool. And it's like, I don't know.
No, they're really not.
You're right. This movie does do a really good job, especially showing, not being afraid to show how disgusting pirates were. These are some
genuinely
nasty
gross
movies. These are there's some gross scenes.
Which goes back to the art, the art direction and the production design with the costuming and they make the pirates look gross. Especially that one guy who like his eye keeps falling out.
Oh yeah.
And then like they'll suck on his eye and then spit it out and put it back in his eye socket. I'm like, that's gross.
It's
that's
so
disgusting.
Gross. But they weren't afraid to do it. They were just like, yeah. I feel like that's a good point. This is a very accurate representation of like pirates. It's not fantasized.
Right.
So
and then you have like Will and Elizabeth who like genuinely don't want anything to do with it, but they kind of have to because the British aren't being great either. But then it seems like after the third movie, Elizabeth goes on and lives a somewhat like normal life.
Yeah.
Because Will comes back at some point and they have a son. So, you know, which I guess she goes on and lives a normal life, question mark?
I don't know. I was so confused about the son because I was like, in that movie, she was like, had like this back and forth thing with Jack Sparrow, and then Will is gone for 10 years at a time, and they have a kid, and I'm just like, just a little, I was a little put off by that. I was like, whose kid is this? Like, I don't know. Like,
I mean, the implication is that it's Will and Elizabeth's
Will's
kid.
Son,
they're not going to go anywhere else with that.
Out of context, I was like,
I don't think Elizabeth actually had a thing for Jack. I think that was more of a manipulative thing. Because remember, when she kissed him in Dead Man's Chest, that was so that she could distract him and tie him to the ship, and then they could all leave.
Yeah.
Which I am really glad they followed up on that in At World's End when he sees her again. And like is like, oh, you haven't mentioned to everyone else that you tied me to the ship, and now you're the reason I'm here.
Yeah, that was really good.
That seems incredibly disingenuous to everyone else.
That was really good, because then now it puts her in the like, because like going back to Jack Sparrow's not a good guy, but now she's in the villain spot,
right?
And so it's like this really interesting like shifting roles. I just thought
he can be like, I'm not a great guy. But at least I didn't tie her to, the post and let the Kraken kill you.
Literally. So I don't know. That's really interesting.
I got very excited in At World's End when they did the transition from the real world to Davy Jones' locker. There was they put in literal audio from the ride. Like it was actual. Like I had to go back and play it because I was like, oh, that sounds just like. And I listened to it again. I was like, that's from the ride. That's actual ride audio. They just ripped that right from the ride and put it there, and I'm okay. That was cool.
Okay, I want to clip this out, put it on Instagram. I need to find the video of us on the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, and when it hits the dip, and we just screamed at the top of our lungs, and like freaked everyone out. Other people on the ride were screaming, and it was so funny because it's not an intense ride at all. You just
not
dip
a bad
little
drop
bit,
either.
and I just go. Is so funny. I need to find that video and post that.
I also need to find you can post this as the announcement post. But there's a picture. I went as Jack Sparrow for Halloween 2013, I think.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, it was 2013 because that was the year we went on a Disney cruise and they had the Pirates and Princess night and I reused the costume. But I did like the pose and everything. Like I got really into the whole like Jack Sparrow pose. My mom like took her makeup brush and painted a goatee on my face and did like the little cross and the like dark under the eyes. It was great.
I'm sure it was iconic.
Jack Sparrow is. I'll show you the picture.
No, you should.
After we record. Is that all you have to say about the good movies?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
All right, the bad movies on Stranger Tides.
So mermaids.
I would rather watch On Stranger Tides than Dead Men Tell No Tales. If I was put in a room and somebody was like, "You're not coming out till you watch On Stranger Tides or Dead Men Tell No Tales, and you can't watch neither or we'll kill you," I'd be like, all right, fine, put on Stranger Tides, because at least that was somewhat interesting.
You know, I disagree.
Really?
Because Dead Men Tell No Tales at least is shorter and
by like what, 10 minutes? 15 minutes?
Well, it's like Dead Men Tell No Tales is like 2 hours, like 2:15. and then On Stranger Tides is 2:20. All right,
Wow,
it's shorter.
5 whole minutes.
It's shorter, but I also like On Stranger Tides. I was struggling to stay awake. Like I was like,
honestly, me too.
This is boring. It's slow and it's long, and there's like 2 characters that I care about in that movie. Even then, I'm kind of like, eh. I don't like what they did with Barbossa in that movie. I really don't.
I don't like what they did with Barbossa in either of the last 2 movies.
No, me
I feel
neither.
like they really ruined his character, and they ruined Jack Sparrow in the 5th movie. But we kind of already talked about that, but we'll get there. It's not great. The best part for me of On Stranger Tides was honestly the fact that they stuck a missionary in there, and I think it's so hilarious. They started off with it so strong too. Like it was actually a good moral message of like, oh, anyone can be saved, blah 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 blah. Like that was there.
Yeah, which is
true.
And
then they just kind of took a big fat nosedive with it.
So were you talking about the missionary?
Yeah, I was talking about the missionary, and then my audio died. So we're back. But what I was saying is it started off really good, and then they were just like, you know what? Let's go right off the deep end, and let's actually not do it well. Let's do it bad. And then he became the butt of every joke, and it was like, oh, he's falling for the mermaid. How funny. He's never seen a woman before. And it was just like really playing into that whole Christians never seen a woman before? Whoa, that's crazy, homie. So
said 2 Christians with girlfriend up top.
Hey, yoke. Hey. Let's go. But yeah, it's
that was so cringy. I'm sorry.
It didn't go very well.
No, and I also didn't like the mermaids. They were so just bizarre.
Listen,
and that's kind of what I'm talking about more with like the weird. They leaned into the weird part of like the lore with pirates, like killer mermaids. Really?
Well, that's how mermaids are. Again, this isn't
again.
Okay, I'll give On Stranger Tides credit for one accurately portraying mermaids, because again, a lot of people forget that mermaids are not the Disneyfied, oh, they're singing underwater and they just want to be humans and they have red hair. No, these are supposedly she-devils who lure men to their deaths. Like, and honestly, there was this scene where she was like holding the guy's face on the boat and like pulling him closer, and I was like, please, I want fang teeth to pop out and I want her to kill him. And then the fang teeth popped out and I was like,
let's go.
And then they got like these weird like seaweed Spider-Man whip things. That was weird.
What was up with that? I thought that was a weird decision.
The whole time Jack Sparrow's running, I'm like, Spider-Maids does whatever a spider can. So I appreciate that they did that.
I also I didn't like. It was weird because like the pirates are very like, I guess, sexual, and they're very like, I guess like monkey brain type, but it's also
they are also men who get locked out at sea for like months at a time. So I can understand where that mentality comes from.
That's incredibly valid, but also I thought they were just kind of like women, oh, and I thought, and I didn't
never seen a woman.
I didn't appreciate that. I thought that was like, I thought that was weird. I was like, maybe out of character for some, not some of the crew, but I don't know. I thought it was weird. The mermaids in general were weird to me.
It's also weird, and this movie definitely starts leaning in that direction. They're weird, I guess, mischaracterization of women, of like, they're now, like, we came off of the first 3 movies that had Elizabeth Swann, who is this, like, pardon my French, but like this badass, like, I don't take crap from anybody. You're not going to tell me what to do. Becomes the pirate king.
Just like, a girl boss.
Right. Like just a girl boss. We go from that to, oh yeah, the first mate is Blackbeard's daughter, but she's really an evil witch because she uses her looks to get what she wants. And, you know, she's not that great of a person. And and then we have the mermaids who are like also oddly sexualized in a way. Not all of them, but just the one. And then that leads into Dead Men Tell No Tales with
That poor girl.
That poor girl. I feel so bad for her because they just sexualized her to no end, and it did not have to be that way.
Which
especially
is so
when
weird.
they were really trying to make her the new Elizabeth Swann in the same way that they're trying to make their son, whose name I don't even remember, the new Will. Like, they were trying to do the new Will and Elizabeth, and then they just like sexualized this poor girl to death when they never did that for Elizabeth. And maybe they did a little bit in the first movie.
Yeah.
But then after that, it was not as big of a deal.
Which, like...
And it was never a big deal for Elizabeth. But anyone else...
I understand the pirates. They're pirates. They're like swashbuckling. We're getting the women. But, like Elizabeth Swann was handled so well in that first movie, like, maybe a little bit, but in a piratey way that made sense.
Right.
For the story and the characters. And then after that first movie, I feel like she like, became, like, her really cool self that, like, she became respected.
Right.
And, like, I'm trying to remember what it's called. It may have been the elimination of women. That may have been what it was called. But that was a real historical event where they would, like, burn so many women at the stake because they thought they were witches. And they would just do, like, regular things. But because they were women, they thought that it was witchcraft, which is, like, not funny, but, like, kind of funny. But I'm just kind of like that's important, and like I see what they were trying to do, but it came off, because of when it came out, how it was handled, it came off very, like, feminist to me, and I felt very preached to, of like, look at this strong woman with the world is against her, she's so brave, where like Elizabeth Swann in the first 3 movies felt so much more natural. And I didn't feel like there was an agenda to that of like, look at this strong woman. It's just like, no, this is her character, and she's falling into this cool captain role. But then this girl, who's in The Maze Runner, by the way, that's the only other thing I've seen her in.
Really?
She's the girl from The Maze Runner. And so, I don't know. I thought it was weird. She was like, yes, I can see the stars. And he's like, it's like, oh, but you're a woman. And it was just like...
But you're a woman! Ah!
It set the time... It set a date. It's a timepiece.
2017 movie.
It's a timepiece.
Just say
like,
it as it is. It's a 2017
It's a 2017
movie.
Which, like, I understand. It's the historical reference of, like, that happened, yes. But it was so, like, hardcore strong women, like, big Rey Skywalker vibes. And I just didn't appreciate it, if that makes sense. I don't dislike her as a character. I have no beef, like, with the actress or the character or anything. I just don't like being preached to in movies, and that's what it felt like to me.
Because there was nothing wrong with Elizabeth Swann being a girl boss. That was actually quite welcomed, honestly.
She was a great girl boss.
That probably was the one historical inaccuracy I could allow. Because would that actually have happened in real life? I don't know. I was never there. But from what I've heard, that didn't seem to be a very common thing. Mm-hmm. But if you want to have like 1 or 2 historical inaccuracies, because it is a work of fiction. It's not a historical biopic of pirates.
Oh, if you're going to break down like the historical inaccuracies of Pirates of the Caribbean, there's a list. There's a list. That's not the hill to die on.
But that was okay.
That's not the hill to die on. Yeah.
Because there were all the other things that we've previously mentioned that actually worked. But then in you know what? I'm not even going to give on Stranger Tides another light of day. I don't even want to. It was a bad movie. I don't care. Yeah. I did think it was... I thought it was incredibly ironic that Jack dumps the girl off on the island, and then he's like, all right, you get the island... And you get a pistol with 1 shot in it. So you can either kill some food or kill yourself. Your choice. And then he leaves. And I'm like, you know what?
Yeah, that was incredibly based.
It's based, but also I respect the reference because that's how he got left there. Mm-hmm. So, but Dead Men Tell No Tales is, I argue, the worst out of the 5. It is just so... bad. And I want to go back to this movie felt so much more... The world of the movie felt a lot more anti-women than it had ever been previously established in the other movies. Like, there's literally... They put emphasis on a sign in the wherever they're at. I don't even remember. But where they start out, that it literally says, no dogs, no women. Which, first of all, there shouldn't be dogs allowed in buildings that's not your house anyway. That is still a rule we have to this day, kind of. But it's just like the whole, like, oh, she's getting hanged because she knows science, so therefore she's a witch, and she's evil. And if you don't fit into this stereotypical role of, you know, housemaid or whatever, you're a witch. And it just feels so much more artificial because Elizabeth Swann was never treated that way. And we've established, like, the British never treated Elizabeth Swann that way. Even... Granted,
she was royalty.
Right, that's true. She wasn't a common
But we never saw any of this other anti-women stuff in the other movies.
Like, there were no...
Like, why is this happening all of the sudden?
Right, why is it happening now? I don't believe that, like, something massive had to have changed between the, what, like, I guess 9 years or something between the third movie and the fifth movie or something like that. So, there's stuff like that. And then... I physically cringed when they made the horologist joke. Okay. I physically cringed. This
is a family-friendly podcast, but also,
what
hurt. The heck? That was if you know, you know. What a weird joke. And even like that
for
joke.
A kids movie.
I was talking about this movie. A family movie, which I was talking about this with friends too. Dead Men Tell No Tales in general just has a lot of like bad, like weird humor like that, like just random like sexual jokes that like weren't anywhere to be found in the first 3 movies. Like they were, like there were themes of that in an appropriate pirate context. Like none of it's appropriate, but it made sense for the story because they're pirates. But I feel like there was a difference in the first few movies between them being pirates, and this one just felt like they were middle schoolers.
Yeah. Because they were all like laughing at that joke. They're like, oh, so what you mean is...
He goes, your mom.
Your mom. She's more horizontally reclined. And I'm like, oh my God. You know the writers who wrote that thought that was the funniest thing they've ever written.
Oh, you know.
Like, that was the joke. And they were like, you know what, guys?
They were like, this is it, guys. This is it.
This is the funniest thing we've ever written.
Yeah.
The rest of the movie is just... I couldn't get behind the villain. Because, again, he didn't feel scary. Because he didn't feel real. Not saying that, again, a tentacle, bearded man with a peg leg and a crab hand is realistic. But he felt a whole lot scarier than the Spanish guy who got slightly slighted by Jack Sparrow due to his own arrogance.
That's so true.
By the way, it's not even Jack's fault. The dude was so... thirsty for blood that he got himself killed.
We're just kind of like, don't hate the player.
Hey, listen, don't hate the player, hate the game.
It sucks to suck, essentially. Like, what do you want from me?
And it didn't feel scary because it didn't look real. And I know that's like, oh, well, if you want your villains to look real. I'm like, well, it didn't feel real. Because, like, he's like,
look real and feel
I'm going to kill Jack Sparrow. And I'm like, well, no, get in line, buddy. You're like,
literally.
What, the 4th person now who wants to kill Jack Sparrow? Like, this is not anything new.
Yeah, I didn't like the villain.
We got our token. Barbossa is the bad guy, and now he's not the bad guy. He's actually the good guy. Which...
And this science girl is his daughter,
Whoa!
question mark.
I remember seeing that in the theater, and it made no sense to me. Even having not seen the other movies.
I feel like that was such a final attempt to like reel you in emotionally, and it just did not land for me.
I felt nothing when he died. When he fell off,
they spent the last 2 movies ruining his character.
If he had died in At World's End, I would have been like, oh man,
I would have cried.
That's so sad.
Yeah.
But now it's like, well, you've done this you've done this villain to hero trope twice. Back to back, by the way. It's not even like they did this in the first movie. And then, because, you know, I think his character in particular, because I do want to take a second to acknowledge Barbossa, because he's in every single movie. In the first 3, he was a villain who had been slighted by Jack Sparrow.
Mm-hmm.
Shocker. But then he dies, but then he gets brought back, which it was never really clear how they did that, but I think it was fine. Because now they're like turning to him of like, oh, I'm the only person who can help you, and I'm going to help you save Jack Sparrow now, because I'm a different person than I was before. And then that continues in At World's End, where, you know, he continues to lead this like pirate revolution, which I should also mention. At World's End feels so different, like at least the beginning felt so different tonally from the other ones, because it really felt like a end of the world. Like the
Truly.
British have taken over. Like it was the
like
end of
dark.
Empire Strikes Back, beginning of Return of the Jedi type vibes.
It felt very beginning of Endgame to me.
Right. Like we're at our lowest and we can only go up from here type thing. But they continued him leading on this pirate revolution, and then obviously it ends with he takes the Black Pearl, which him and Jack fighting over the Black Pearl will forever be a bit that they keep doing until it's not. So I was gonna say I don't even remember how I don't even remember how they end the last movie with that, but then I was like, oh, that's right, Barbossa dies.
Yep. Oh yeah, he dies.
I forgot about that.
I pulled up the Rotten Tomatoes score for all 5 of these movies.
Oh, do share.
And what's fascinating, one, I don't trust Rotten Tomatoes at all. I truly don't.
What does the audience score say? That's the only score that matters.
Rotten Tomatoes has no bearing on reality, but I'm fascinated by their scores. So there is one Pirates of the Caribbean movie that Rotten Tomatoes doesn't say is rotten. And it's... Can you guess which one?
Is it... I'm trying to get into the mindset of Rotten Tomatoes critics. And this is based off the Rotten Tomatoes score, not the audience score.
Not the audience score.
Okay. Is it At World's End?
Nope.
Is it Dead Men Tell No Tales?
No.
Oh. I mean, I'm already halfway there, so I guess is it the first one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The first one has an 80 on Rotten Tomatoes. And the audience score is 86 for Curse of the Black Pearl.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
The rest of them, the highest rated one after that by Rotten Tomatoes is Dead Man's Chest at 53.
Wow.
Which seems kind of harsh.
Yeah, that seems really harsh. It wasn't that bad. I mean, these aren't like 5-star movies, but
no, but
I gave them all. I gave the first 3, I think, 4 stars, and then the last 2 were like 2.5 or 3.
I gave the first one 5 stars, the other 2 4, and then the last 2 got like 2 or 3.
Yeah, because they weren't great.
So, but what's interesting, so like the second one is 53, the third one is 44, fourth one is 33.
Oh, it just keeps going down.
Fifth one is 30. All right.
Wow, it just
they
keeps
did
going
not
down.
Like that movie.
What's the audience score for those movies? Does it follow the same trend, or does it stay about the same?
4 of the 5. There is only one Pirates of the Caribbean movie that is rotten to audiences.
Is it on Stranger Tides?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's what I gathered. I scrolled through some of the
54.
Letterboxd reviews, and that seemed to be the general consensus.
So it has a 54 audience score for Stranger Tides. And then the first one is 86. The second and third one are both 72. And then Dead Men Tell No Tales is a solid 60.
That's not terrible.
I disagree. I
It's
disagree.
Not that great.
I think Dead Men Tell No Tales deserves more like a 50.
Here's the thing.
55.
As bad as 4 and 5 are, they still have really good production design, and they still have they still have like a great soundtrack, which all 5 movies have a banger soundtrack. It's
that's so
good.
true. That's so true.
But you know, it wasn't great. I'm glancing at my notes here for Dead Men Tell No Tales. They're trying to recapture the magic of Will and Elizabeth with these new characters. Yeah, by the way, I could not get invested in them at all.
Nope.
At all. Because, like, they kiss at the end of the movie, and I'm like, I feel nothing here.
I feel nothing.
Whereas, like,
Yeah.
when Elizabeth and Will get married mid-fight on the ship, and Barbossa is the officiant of their wedding, like,
That's
that
sick.
was cool.
That's
I
sick.
felt something there. That was dope.
So what's interesting, my favorite scene, I think, in all 5 of these movies are at World's End. And my first favorite is when they get married on the ship. My second favorite is when they get married on the ship. My first favorite is when they come out and just absolutely demolish the British ship.
Oh, yeah.
And all of the guards are like, Captain, what do we do? And he's just frozen. And then he like walks down the stairs,
and it's
as
like
the
everything's
ship
exploding
is, like,
in slow motion.
destroyed around him.
That was cool.
Like, that was iconic. Like, that is hands down, I think, the most beautiful shot in all of these movies.
It's
just
good
the
business.
world slowly crumbling around him as he like descends the stairs of the ship. So good. They're so good.
Yeah. Another thing. Oh no, where'd it go? The note was right there, and then I lost it. There's the best part of Dead Men Tell No Tales is when Will and Elizabeth reunite at the end of the movie.
That's
the
so
very
true.
end of the movie. That is the
That is
best
so true.
part of a close to 2.5 hour movie.
Yeah.
I'll never understand why they didn't bring those 2 characters back for the 4th and 5th movie. Like, and I know they brought them back for the 5th movie in a sense, and I think they could tell that the audiences didn't really like that they weren't in the movie, so they kind of put them in there. But I'll never understand why they got rid of them, because they were, in my opinion, the best part of the first 3 movies.
Yeah, I think the 5th one could have been better if they were in it. But also,
the 4th one was also, like, felt more like an anthology movie than anything else. Like, it felt like a
That's what I
generic
said.
pirate movie with Jack Sparrow and Barbossa in it.
It felt like a fan fiction with high production quality. That
really is the best way to put it, honestly.
So, yeah. Essentially, wrapping up a little bit, the last 2 movies are not great. I think if they stayed at 3,
this would be a golden trilogy.
It would have just been revered as like one of those golden trilogies, like Lord of the Rings. I can't say. Well, I could say Star Wars because the originals are a golden trilogy.
Yeah, the originals are good.
So you could say.
I would argue the prequels are good too.
Yeah.
People don't like to admit it, but
so you could say, like, I don't know, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, Pirates of the Caribbean. Like, that's one of those. But I think those other 2 like fell so hard that it's not. And it's like, oh, there's 5 movies, and so it's more like, it's kind of like how Fast and Furious isn't revered as this incredible movie series because it's gone so downhill.
Yeah.
And just like is derived into madness, and they're making a 10th one, and it's just like, bro, there's too many. That's what
there is
I
too
think.
many. That's why we'll never do a franchise revisit on Fast and Furious. There's too many of them.
But
maybe one day.
I'm not opposed.
Maybe one day.
We'll start now.
If we start now, we can get there by the end of 2025.
So that's kind of what's up. I think I was impressed. I was very impressed. And these are great movies that I will watch again someday.
Yeah. I'll probably, honestly, I would show, like, my kids. Oh, sorry. I would show my kids, or really anyone, the first 3 and then stop there, because those are,
it's not worth
that's
it.
the golden trilogy. That's, and it really shows the difference in having a unified director. Oh, great. Here we go again.
Not the low battery.
It really shows.
We'll wrap it
It
up.
really goes to show what happens when you have a unified director and, like, just this unified vision of a story for 3 movies, and then you go from there.
Yeah.
So,
ma'am,
good
chat.
Good first 3 movies, and then the other 2 were bad. So
anything else to say before
My camera dies.
Your camera dies.
Don't think anything.
It's kind of funny the way that we talked about this versus Jurassic Park. We're like, man, like almost all of these but one suck for Jurassic.
They are 1 for 6.
And then Lord of the Rings was like, these are all really good. And then
Pirates of
this
the Caribbean
was
is 3 for 5.
3 for 5.
I'll give them that one.
Good ratio.
Majority good.
I hope they make no more.
They're trying. They're trying so hard.
It's not worth it. That's
Let it
what
go.
I'll say.
Move on to a different Disney
I'd
ride.
rather try to make, that's what I'll wrap up as saying, is they don't make movies like this anymore, because this is just a fun, high quality, super like intensely well done, well put together adventure movie.
Yes.
And we don't get well put together adventure movies anymore.
Nope.
And so I think they should stop trying to capitalize on Pirates of the Caribbean and move on and try to do something else and actually care about it, and don't just send it straight to Disney Plus.
Hey, Disney, guess what? You have 6 parks full of rides in the US alone. Pick a different ride. Move on. I know Haunted Mansion is coming out next year, and Taika Waititi is working on a Tower of Terror movie. Okay, that's great. Jungle Cruise was okay. And you're trying to build out your Disney Park cinematic universe, but let Pirates of the Caribbean go. Let these 3 be a perfect little timepiece and move on. You got so many different rides. You got Space Mountain, Big Thunder Mountain. I don't want to say Splash Mountain because the movie for that one was actually really controversial and not super great.
We're not going to talk about that.
We're going to excuse that one. It's going to be Pirates of the Frog, Princess and the Frog.
Pirates of the Frog.
Soon,
Let's
so
go.
It's okay. But yeah, you got all these other things you can pull from. Do something else. Let Pirates of the Caribbean go. Let Johnny Depp go. Free him from this curse.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Nerdiest podcast. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. If you want to support us, the best thing you can do is subscribe on Spotify, subscribe on YouTube. Just like, make sure you're following. You can follow on Instagram, links in the description. We're just at the Nerdiest podcast too. We're on Twitter at Nerdiest Pod if you want to go there. And you can, if you have a question, you can email us, or you could go to the contact us page. I'm so distracted by you right now. Or you could go to the contact us page on our website. All the links will be in the description. There'll probably be a poll down there. That's not my job, so I'm not going to guarantee it.
That's my job.
But
I'm going to put some, for the poll, I'll put some franchises down there of what we should revisit next.
Yes.
I'm going to put Sharknado on there. Sharknado is really killing it in the polls. Spotify poll is doing great, and the YouTube community post poll is doing great. So it looks like we'll be revisiting Sharknado next year, and I'm all here for it. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode. Peace out.
Bye.